Well, hello and welcome to In the Growth Space. This is the show for business owners and leaders who have a hunger and thirst for growth. Really appreciate you listening in. My name is David McGlennon and I'm your host. And this podcast is all about growth and learning from leaders who have created business growth and team growth and personal growth. And I really love talking with people who've gone on their own growth journey and who I really want to learn from. And today is going to be such a great episode with a lady named Alice Givens, and she's the president of Carlstedt, which is a wholesale florist. And before I tell you about her, though, I just want to encourage you to be sure that you go and subscribe to the podcast and give us a rating and write us a review. We really want to help other people-centered leaders to know really that they're not alone and not alone in their quest of leadership growth. And so we want to be able to help others in their growth journey. So if you do us that small favor, that would be fantastic and really would mean the world to me. Now, let me just introduce you to Alice Givens because Alice, she's got such an amazing story because she started in the floral business by being a driver. And you'll hear her share that part of her story today. But there's a lot of growth that happens between being a driver and then when in October 2012, she basically bought the wholesale floral operations of the Oscar Carlstedt company. And they're now Carlstedt's LLC. And she's the president of Carlstedt's. As of 2019, Carlstedt's operates in 13 Southeast locations. They currently run 70 delivery vehicles and have 160 team members. Alice leads her team at Carlstedt's, and they provide services such as VIP systems with capabilities from online ordering, invoicing, photo archiving, to networking with fellow florists, freelancers, and DIYers. They service clients from all over the world through flowergeneral.com, which is their online floral mall. And you can find anything there in flowers from arrangements to box lots. Flowergeneral.com handles logistics, payment methods, and in-store pickups. Carlstedt's is also a preferred vendor for a variety of the big box stores such as Whole Foods and Winn-Dixie and Walmart and even Amazon. And Alice has been growing not only her flowers, but she's been growing her company and she's been growing her team and herself. She's been working with her coach, Paul Martinelli, and she also shares her experience because of that. She shares her experience at the Turning Point Retreat in this episode. And let me just say here too at this point that we do have a limited number of seats available to Turning Point. And I know how impactful this retreat is going to be. I've been there and I've learned so much from it. And I just want to encourage you to go out and register for the retreat. All of us, have this inner drive and this desire to expand ourselves and expand our experience, but we honestly don't know the process to make our dreams a reality. Well, Turning Point is going to teach that, and it's going to allow you to choose your own adventure in that process of creating the experience that will help you begin that creative process and teach you the tools to be able to create your own growth path. So you can go register at davidmcglennon.com/turning point. And that's a capital T and a capital P as in point. So davidmcglennon.com/turning point. And that's with a capital T and a capital P. Now, as I get into this conversation with Alice, she's very humble in what she's been able to accomplish, but let's go ahead and get into that conversation now. And I'll be back at the end to recap some of my observations and my learnings from this conversation. Well, Alice, so great to have you on the podcast and have you here in the growth space. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Me too. I'm so excited. Thanks for the invite.
Oh gosh, my pleasure. I know I was talking with our mutual mentor and coach, Paul Martinelli, back before the holidays. And we were talking about Turning Point, of course, and he said, "Oh my goodness, you got to talk with Alice." And then the more I started doing some research, I thought, "Oh yeah, I got to talk with Alice." So I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
For the listeners, I know. Let me just kind of set the stage. First of all, you're a business owner, you're a business leader, and you've had an amazing growth journey.
Mhm.
What got you? First of all, you're in the floral business. You're in that industry. So like what got you into that in the first place? What drew you to that?
Well, I tell everyone I started because I needed a job. So I was a single parent, and I started in 1994 as a driver.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing about that is my boss, who I bought the company from, he began as a driver. And
Oh my
so it was
goodness.
just a neat follow in the footsteps. And I often think of him, and he's passed away now, but I often think, I want to make him proud,
Oh,
because he was always for the people. But we're a wholesale florist. We have 13 locations. They're a little bit in the southeast of the United States because, as most people know, all the flowers come in through the port pretty much out of Miami. And so they get inspected there. And we have stores that reach the furthest west is Louisiana, which is where I am. And then I managed that store there for like 20 years. And then the furthest north is probably Lexington, Kentucky.
okay.
So we have a
All
store
right.
there too. And
Wow.
I love what I do. I tell them if they took my key, I'd break in.
Oh, I love it. Well, there was a big jump there from being a driver to buying the business. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious, like how did that all evolve? I mean, here you are a driver driving for
Yeah.
this floral company, and then you end up buying the business. That's
Yes.
a huge growth space.
It's very, yeah. Well, to me, I have a whole story written on this. There
Awesome.
became a time when I started, my boss told me it was sink or swim.
Ah,
And I tell people I chose not to drown.
I love
And
it.
as I said, I needed a job. Two kids are a motivator too, and I loved her. We were in the same house church together, and she was just very blunt. And she said it's sink or swim. And I started out as a driver, and I got to go to the flower shops and meet all these wonderful people. They would just, of course, I'm the prize. When I show up, I have what you want.
Of course, of
And
course.
so I built a lot of relationships there, and I would see things like, hey, you're almost out of Mylars. You want me to bring you some more? The happy birthday and all that. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't even notice. And most retail florists, they really work low. I mean, they're a skeleton crew, a lot of
Mm,
them. Either they're just getting started or maybe they inherited it. That could happen. And they're just trying to grow too. And
yeah.
and then I would say within a year or so, I was in sales. And then within 2 years, I was management. And, when I started, I believe I started at I looked it up. I think it was like 5.25 an hour,
Oh
right?
gosh, yeah,
And
yeah.
then when you worked in sales, you got to go up to a salary position. And man, when I hit that salary position, I was like, wow, like I've made it.
I've
Like
made it.
this,
Yeah,
this
right.
is as far as you can go.
Yeah.
And but I managed there until we started having the conversation about purchase in 2010. And
Okay.
so I purchased it with my partner, John Cross, and he retired in 2018. And so we're just moving right along, and we continue to grow. We really do continue to grow.
Wow, that's fantastic. What do you attribute that growth to? Like, what's your secret sauce to growth?
Well, I feel like I'm a possibility thinker. Then, of course, when I met Paul Martinelli, he said he was a possibility thinker. I'm just zoned in.
Yeah.
Then, when he said he was a high school dropout, I was like, he is hashtag my people. Um,
That's
and
great.
because I'm also, I mean, I have a ninth grade education, and so don't tell me what you can't do. And when I met Paul, I mean, I just hung on every word. I tell people he could have been talking about, I'm going to teach you how to play rummy. And I'm like, sign me up.
I'm ready.
I'm
Yeah.
going to teach you how to build a fire out of sticks. I'm in.
Yeah.
And it could be anything, but I tell people I feel he's anointed by God
Mm,
because, scripture teaches us about, having our own gifts. And I really feel that is his gift. And we may all have multiple gifts, or we may all be searching for what we have a gift, like what is our God given talent. Just really coaching people is Paul's gift. I know it
mm,
is because he coaches you at a level you understand. I talk to many people and I've been coached by many people. And they'll say, well, that's just the way I do it. That's the way I coach. And I'm like, well, while I appreciate that, I appreciate more you really come into my level. Like, here's where I'm at. And when Paul talked about starting his own business, I mean, I was just like, wow. I mean, again, tell me what you can't do, because he's the assassin. We know him.
Yes, right,
He is
right.
the limited belief assassin, and we know that. So nothing you say is going to stand.
Yeah. Well, and so as you've built your business and as
Mhm.
you've looked at the possibilities of growing your business, I know that it takes a team of people. And so
Yes.
like, how do you build into your leaders so that they're growing? Because I often will talk about, I believe that a company can only grow when their people are growing as well. And
That's right.
I wonder if you, okay, so I was going to ask you if you agree with that, number one, but number two,
I
like,
do.
how do you build into your people and really help your people keep growing?
Well, the way that I explain it is I will go first. And so as I'm, got my machete and I'm chopping down stuff and I get hit in the face with a branch and all that, I can turn around and say, hey, don't go that
Don't
way.
go there. Yeah,
And
right.
it helps a lot. But I've hired Jenna Armato. She is awesome. I've hired her to coach. Barbara Britt's poured into
Yeah.
some of my people as well. I've done a lot of things to give them access. Paul Sheely, I'm starting a big program with him. And it's, if you want to participate, I want to help you.
Mhm.
If you don't, I mean, okay. I mean, like we know Dave Ramsey says, I can help you work here or somewhere else. At
Right.
some point, you're either going to have an aha moment
Yeah.
and you're going to be like, this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
Or you're going to say, this is really not it. As Paul teaches also, don't get involved and get attached to your goal. Get involved and attached with your participation in the goal. So we serve customers all the time. And as I said, we're the hero. The driver shows up. Sometimes they may be mad and say, where have you been? However,
Yeah, sure.
if you have a lot of stops, it's just the way it is. But all the customers love our team and they love our people. And I feel like from a leadership standpoint, I don't micromanage. And I do believe that that's key. I can give you all the people in the world, and I can give you access to people that you would in no other realm have access to. I mean, think about that. Paul Martinelli spoke to my team. David Martinelli spoke to my team. With Paul Sheely, there's all these people that you wouldn't have access to. So instead of being pushy about it, like you have to see this, and I'm gonna have something in the back end that shows me if you even tapped it. Not, who cares? I mean,
Yeah, right.
I can't be bothered with that. We have 160 people on a high side, and with 13 locations, depending on the season, that is what it is. At Valentine's, we need people and a whole lot extra. And maybe when it's slower, I teach my team to teach. That's the perfect time to hire somebody. When you're the slowest ever, go get somebody. Don't kick your feet up, because somebody's going to be, I
That's
tell my
right.
people, get your nose on the ground and your butt in the air. Let's move it.
I love it. Oh,
So,
I love
yeah.
that picture because I have a coonhound. I have a red bone coonhound that does the exact same thing. She puts her nose down and her butt in the air.
Yeah, I am focused on what I need to be focused on instead of
Yeah.
being so distracted. Yeah.
Well, and I guess talk about that focus, because I can imagine as a CEO and 160, people, you have to be focused. How do you do that? Like, how do you not get distracted?
There's leadership, as we talked about. There's systems and processes. That's huge. Without, if we don't know what the route's going to be, okay,
Yeah.
if we don't have a time that we're going to leave,
Mhm.
and if we don't adhere to those disciplines, if the
Yeah.
truck cuts off at this time and you have 3 people adding on, it's really hard to get them out on time, because we, a lot like the retail florist, we're all skeleton. I mean, when pandemic hit, there's never more than 7 to 10 people in my store at one time,
Sure.
because we're mainly delivery. We do
Okay.
have customer pickups, which we invite, but at the same time, there was never that many people. And, they were like, oh, you can't have crowds, avoid crowds. And so we got really creative on, look, we'll leave it outside for you. You can slip your check through the door. There's
Sure.
many things that you can do, but
Mm,
we're not closing down. Like
yeah.
we weren't looking for the long weekend.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think that that's the mentality of, someone who's growth minded. We're going to find a way, right? We're going to
Yeah.
find a way.
Yeah.
We're going to be creative. And
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, that I'm always curious, like how leaders like you engage their creativity. And I know we'll talk about this here in a minute, because I want to talk to you about
Yeah.
Turning Point, because you're
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
Turning Point, and I know you're a huge proponent, but like, how do
Yes.
you engage your creativity and your imagination to be able to find solutions for your business?
I think it's clearing the fog in your head, really clearing what is everyone's position. So if you look at a football team, if you look at a baseball team, hockey, any of that, each person has a position to cover. And it's very important that they do that,
Mm.
because if it were up to one person, there'd be one person on every team. And so you have your coaches that, they respond to the head coach, and then the whole team responds to them. So everyone has a position. And as I said about putting together for the daily schedules, I think John Maxwell said one time, who's walking around and sees 2 weeks laying on the ground? There's no extra time. Nobody has extra time. So from a time management standpoint, you're able to look at it and say, okay, you've got this position, you need to cover it. And then I can be creative from freeing up the fog. But that comes, as I said, I have 13 stores. I communicate with those 13 people. When I call the store, I don't ask for the driver. I'm asking for the manager. So I don't get lost in the weeds, and it's easy to focus when you do that. And I think it can be very creative. I mean, like we said, during pandemic, we were very aware that people were sick, people were dying. It was horrible. Bad things were happening. But at the same time, if you look at Christian belief and you look at back in the 100 years ago, the most well person was the Christian. Why? Because they were on the mission. They had their nose on the ground, but in the air. We're helping people. We've got to help them. So they were already, I guess, immunized, if they even knew that word at that time. So with us doing the work, staying in our strength zone, there's so many opportunities that you don't miss.
Yeah, and I think, just as I hear you talking about just staying in your strength zone and focusing on that, and then being very careful to not get into the weeds. I really think that to me, that's the key to being a focused and really successful leader, is to be able to not get sucked down into the weeds. Trust your team to be able to put the responsibility on them and allow them to do their work. So I think
That's
that's
right. We all have a job to do. It's not, ready, set, wait. I
yeah.
mean, we
Yeah,
have to
right.
move.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
analyze it. Let's overanalyze it, and let's overthink this, as Paul teaches us. The market's okay with that.
right. Right.
Stop everything around you and go into research mode for 6 weeks, and then go look at your bank account.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, you really have to manage your calendar like that. We can't really manage time. Time's going to happen with or without us. But if
Yeah.
we manage our calendar properly, and if
Mhm.
you can't, you can always go find somebody in that leadership space that says, I've got it figured out. Or you have a friend, especially in the empowered living group, you have someone who's doing this 24/7. So that allows you to stay in your strength zone.
Yeah, yeah, that's so key. You touched on something there that just piqued my curiosity. So, talk a little bit about your calendar, because I'm sure that a lot of the leaders who are listening today, they look at their calendar and they think, "Oh my goodness, I don't have the time," or they tell themselves that story, "I don't have the time." How do you manage time? How do you lead time? And how do you, like, really, I guess, work with your calendar?
I use my phone a lot.
Yeah.
So my whole life is there. And if it's not in my calendar on my phone, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I have a paper calendar, which is okay, and I can make a note, but I don't rely on that. I rely on my phone and my calendar. And when I accept the invite, it'll pop it in there and then I know. And I look at things sometimes 2 days out, like there's a reminder in there.
Yeah.
So if it says, if I accept the invite and I go look at it, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to need a little time here. There's certain options. Well, I'm an iPhone person, but there's certain options where you can get an alert an hour before I realized that, or before somebody keyed me in on that. I would set calendars. I mean, I would set alarms
Oh,
in my
sure.
calendar, and yes, so they would go off. I have alerts that some of them are 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And but it brings me right back to that time when I know I need to do it. So when I know I have a meeting, when I know I have things coming up, I will tell it when to remind me. Because again, if I'm in charge of my schedule, I know about what kind of time I need. Some people, you might need a couple of hours to just kind of study and think about it. Sometimes you just need 30 minutes. I mean, look at what
Sure.
we're doing here. It's
Right.
so conversational. I feel like
Right.
we're just having coffee and
Yep.
and it's so nice. But if you said, "Oh, I've got to have all these questions," then I'm going to need some time. So,
Yes,
but
right.
that's how I do it.
Yeah, no, that's always interesting. I'm always kind of curious to see how, other leaders create their calendar and really take
Mm,
control of their calendar. And I know that that's a key to a lot of people's success is really being able to control that calendar and be able to make sure that they're, controlling it, not letting it control them. Right.
that's right. And to make sure that they're on point, because a lot of times I always find it fascinating that everyone knows when lunch is, everyone knows when it's time to go home,
Sure.
but we seem to get foggy, in the hours between. And you just have to be there to remind them.
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, so you
Well,
send out little notes, and like I said, the manager's there to do a job too. And
sure.
sometimes the manager can get caught up in busy work. And it's like, no, 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 we have people for that. We have drivers, we have clerical, we have sales, we have in-store personnel. So yes.
I want to turn a little bit and go to Turning
Yeah,
Point for a second because I
yeah.
know that you've got some amazing stories from Turning Point, and I know that you're a huge fan. I
Yes.
just would love to kind of what are maybe a couple of things that you've gotten from that retreat, and what are some things maybe that you still work with today?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's how long is the show?
Take as long as you need.
Yeah. Let me just tell you, my first experience with Turning Point would probably be the most special for me because that's where I approached Paul and he started personally coaching me. Like
Mm,
I on the spot, like I personally had a conversation with him really quick. I was in one of his other, I guess if you want to call it a mastermind group,
sure.
but you're designing your empowered life. I was in that group and when he did the turning point, I was just like, do I really want to do this? I don't know. And I talked to a couple of people, and some people were like, well, you're sailing through trees and you're doing all these crazy things. And I was like, what? So I wanted to go check it out.
Sure.
That's the curiosity, but it's the most special to me because my history and my background, there's a lot. I tell people a lot of my scars are self inflicted, but
Mm,
there's a lot of scars that were put there by someone else. And in some space, family member. And when he went through the 3 R's, which we know as resistant, or the resentment is the first thing, and then the resistant, and then the revenge. It had to have been 45 years just lifted off of
mm,
me. How
wow.
heavy is that?
Yeah.
And so for him to go through that, for him to invite you to stay in that person that you want to be, for him to give you the space to think. I mean, think about how many times people can't even allow it because we don't have time. We got to get to work. We got to get home. Think about kids. Hurry up and go to bed. Hurry up and wake up. Hurry up and eat. Hurry up and fold your clothes. It's always a hurry.
Hmm.
So when I went, my first experience, it's 2.5 days really. And it's so focused on what you're going to do. And if you've never allowed yourself to think about what you could be, about what you could do, I'm telling you, like it was just so, I just can't explain it as
Yeah.
far as everything that got lifted. for him to let you be the person without giving a lot away, thinking about the person you want to become, having the space to be able to do so. And then the biggest part is inviting you to stay in that person. That is an uncomfortable position. I mean, and it could be at any level for anyone. So just to think about what you could be or want to do. What does that person look like? Does you have a business suit, a tie, high heels, the whole deal? To be able to think about that could be uncomfortable, but to allow it to just be in fertile soil for a minute and then go to someone, which is Paul, for that space. I'm telling you, just to go to someone that can nurture that and water it. And you're like, no, you don't understand. Everything was bad. And no. But to sit knee to knee with someone you don't even know and share your life history. Okay. Think about that. If you were to pay for therapy, which let's talk about that a minute. But anyway, if you were to pay for therapy, you would go to this person and go, this person didn't even know me, or they could make you feel comfortable and you could share anything. Because what's your thought? I'm really not going to see them that much or whatever. Well, it's even easier at Turning Point because you think I'm never going to see this person again. And I'm just like, wow, And so you think about time in that and being able to sit knee to knee and look eye to eye and really go inward and pull all of that out. And for that person to say, whatever you have is safe with me. Your secret is safe with me. Your dream is safe with me. And to be able for them to allow that, the best therapy on the face of the earth, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think the one thing that you said just a moment ago is really key because so oftentimes we don't give ourselves space. It's the American way, so to speak, where we just got to go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And we don't allow ourselves the space to be able to think and to reflect and dream and imagine the future. And I think that one of the things that I especially love about Turning Point is just being able to imagine the future, living in that future, and then being able to basically live from that future and into today. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but once people come to it, they'll understand, and they'll get it. But so I guess as you processed, some of your dreams and some of your goals, what were some of the things that you learned? I mean, you already talked about, the resistance and the revenge, and like what were some other things that maybe you learned there that just helped you to be successful, helped you to grow, and really maybe even helped you to fuel your imagination and that growth space?
Yeah. So climbing a tree and jumping out is pretty big.
Yeah. So you chose the insanity route.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Doing things that scare you. But if you think about it, everything was, literally that far away. But in your mind, it's this far away. And that would be, I guess, for radio audience, an inch and a mile.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. You're like, I can't physically do that. No. But then to do that in the person that you want to be and just staying in that, like let your phone stay home for 2 days. Think about that. If you let your phone stay home for 2 days and you're just like, look, I'm going dark, just like if I was on a plane or whatever, right, and really go there, I think you don't have those distractions. I know people need their phone, but that was a big ticket for me because Paul even mentioned it. He's like, if you stay in the person, then you don't get distracted, and I invite you to stay there. So he was watering the seed. I could have taken it, or I could have said, oh, well, I got to go answer an email, or I've got to go do this. And no. And then I'll go back to conference. How many conferences have you been to that you paid for and you came back with, well, yeah, well, how much did you put into that? At conferences, these people pour their hearts out. But I was taught one of the things that Paul spoke there was money follows passion. And I was like, oh, how much passion do I have?
Yeah.
Like, yes. Like if I have the dollar and I'm like, hey, go get all your friends and come back. I'm very passionate. I want you here. But he talked about we don't go anywhere we're not welcome. And so money doesn't either. If we're energy and everything is energy, my flowers are energy, the way I care for them are energy, then money would be the same thing, correct?
Mhm.
It's just a piece of paper. It's an agreement. And so if he talks about money, may I? Like money, may I go to the movies? Money, may I take somebody out on a date? Money, can I get my car fixed?
Yeah.
And money says, nope. And when you think about it like that,
Mm.
think about who's in control. It's not even yours to begin with. So if God gives you this piece to take care of, whatever your strengths are, if you've been anointed with hospitality, I feel that mine's hospitality. It's not teaching and coaching and training, but I'm open to the hospitality. I can make everything comfortable for you. And so when he said that, that was a great thing. And he said, the source knows no limitation, and the source is God. So if the source knows limitation, who creates that limitation?
We do.
Yep.
Yeah, the stories in our head that we build. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Well,
that
and I
was
think
built for you.
correct. Yeah.
And we go really deep there, in Turning Point. Like there could have been a lot of scars that you were taught and you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
to be able to be free of that, to understand that we're going forwards, not
Yeah.
backwards, is
Hmm.
key.
Yeah. Well, and I think that sometimes people might be listening to us talking, and they may think about, oh wow, this sounds like a really cool event. This may sound like a really cool retreat, but I don't know. It might be kind of scary, kind of pulling up some of my past, or
Yeah.
healing some of those scars, and moving forward. What would you say to somebody who's maybe on the fence of like, I don't know if I really want to go and do something like this, but it's intriguing? What would you say to them?
I will tell you that nothing can hide in the light. And once that's made known, just
Mhm.
getting it out. I mean, if you look over our world today, maybe it's because of media or something that we know more than what we
Mhm.
knew before.
Mhm.
Look at the rate of people just getting taken out by
Yeah.
their own thing. What will my
Yeah.
parents think or whatever? And then they go and do something wild, like
Mm.
they run
Yeah.
away from home or they end their life. And
Sure.
that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
But once you bring things to the light, to me, I feel like if you need therapy, you really need therapy.
Yeah.
Now,
Right. Right.
this may not be that answer, but it could be such a start for
Mhm.
you to be able to heal yourself because as Paul always says, it's a you and you deal.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if
Right.
everything starts with a thought, I would challenge that person to bring this thought in. Are you willing and are you able? Like, if you're not able, okay, let's think about that. If you aren't able to make a decision, there are people in our world today who can't make it. I mean, they're just, their brain is literally not functional. They're either,
Mhm.
I mean, there's family members. Like I had, my uncle. He couldn't make a decision. Okay,
Mm.
he was in a hospital all of his life. I know what we call them in society and things like that now are things that are not quote acceptable, but they called him a change of life baby, and he was retarded.
Uh,
And
mm.
when you say that word, people go, "Oh, you can't say, oh, that's so wrong." No, that's not true. That's not true. He really can't make a decision.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that would be not able.
Yeah.
But are you willing? Your ego is going to show up and go, well, you can't do that. You don't have time. Remember, you can't take vacation next week. And so, da da da
Yeah.
da da.
Yeah.
Remember, how is your wife going to feel about this? How is your husband going to feel about this? Oh, they're going to think you're crazy. I would invite you to just bring that out and challenge that thought with going back to the passion. Are you
Mhm.
passionate enough to let it have a voice? Because all it's trying to do is speak to you and say, I'm hurting. I'm
Yeah.
your inner child and I am hurting here. And if you look at all of the people in this world who feel like they have all these problems, oh, I came from a broken home. Well, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of us
A lot of
did.
people did. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that they were brought up in this great family. but they still have their own hurts, habits, and hangups.
Mm-hmm.
This will clear a whole lot of that up. And I think give you such an empowering confidence that you're the one that healed yourself.
Yeah.
You're the one that, I mean, like we know about Christianity, it's a choice. You can either
Yeah.
take it or not. And that's the
Yeah.
beautiful thing. So hopefully to answer your question, don't get caught up in too much having to figure it out first.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if
Right.
you want to grow to a level that is far more than you can ask or imagine,
Mm-hmm.
turning point is really key. It
Yeah.
really is key.
Yeah. And I think that you touched on something too that I know Paul talks about, but and a lot of times whenever we're faced with something or we're presented something, we make excuses, and it's our limiting beliefs. It's our limitations
Yes.
that come out.
Yes.
And oh wait, I don't have
Yes.
enough time. I
Mhm.
just I don't have enough. I don't have enough vacation time. I
Mhm.
can't do that. I can't afford that. That I can't are just a limitation. And so we have to make sure that we're listening to the voice, though, that says, but what about the possibility? Let's stay in that land of the possibility, because
Yes.
I think, what if I were to go to an event like this? And what if I was able to create a dream that is just waiting to be expressed? What would that be like? Wouldn't that be cool? And I think too
Yes.
oftentimes we get so focused on the I can't rather than the but what if, you know?
That's right.
You
Or we
know?
give it to luck. Maybe we'll win the lottery.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. How
yeah.
much energy does that take?
Right, right.
But Paul says, what you dedicate, and I call it devote because that goes back to that passion. I would just kind of stick that in as my word. But what you devote your time, talent, and treasure to, that is going to multiply in your life. And we know this. So if you spend all of your time going, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, well, as you wish.
Yeah, right, right, exactly. Yeah, as
Yes,
you wish. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, how does it feel then as you just think about your life, your business? I mean, because you've created a great life. You've created a
Mhm,
wonderful life. You've got an amazing
mhm,
family. What
mhm.
does it like feel like to create that dream probably once in your mind, right? And then
Mhm.
actually in real life. What does that feel like for you?
Oh, it feels so good. We have 8 grandbabies.
Oh, I love it. That's
And
awesome.
like, I just never, like, literally, it would be probably 12 years ago now. I never saw that. I mean,
Mm,
I was married before my husband passed away with pancreatic cancer,
mm,
and like I had 2 children. He had a child, and I just remember after that happened being a big low point in my life. And, because I really wasn't single and I really wasn't, quote, a widow, you
sure.
just have all these things set up in your head. Those people
Yeah.
are 70 and I'm not.
I'm not,
And
yeah.
so, but looking at it now, like I met Sweet Boy, which is my husband.
Okay, sweet boy. Oh,
People
that's
will say,
great.
what is really his name? His name is Merle, but I refer to him to Sweet Boy, and he answers to Sweet Boy. If you see him on the road and go, hey, Sweet Boy, he turns around. He knows
Turns
his
around.
name.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So
Wow.
we have, he has a boy and a girl, two children, and I have a boy and girl, 2 children. And we have 8 grandbabies. And
Mm,
to be able to look at that, now you're still working today. Okay.
yeah,
We're
sure.
still working. We're still making it happen. We're still busy. I'm not the grandmother that my grandmother was. We could just, she was on a farm. I milked cows. I went and got eggs. I fought chicken snakes. I get it. Today, I'm not. Today, I'm in career mode. I still spend lots of time with them. We keep them and spend the night and all that. So it's different. But I feel like that even comes from my grandmother. It's just a legacy of love. And you're watching all the things that you chased, whether it would be women, booze, alcohol, personal growth, turning point, things that help you get better. Think about that. You're watching that. I mean, my kids, they're raising their kids. That's the most fun for me. I might have said a lot in between that, But I'm gonna tell you, the most fun for me is watching my kids be parents. Because your mom told you you'll have one that's just gonna be just like you.
Oh my gosh, I heard that
Mine
all
were
the
not
time.
just like me.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so I think getting rid of waste not, want not, all of these little analogies that we know, like Paul says, how do
Yeah.
you know that?
Right.
Because it's been taught your whole
Right.
life to you.
Yeah.
And so just looking at them has been a real treasure for me to it's just me to watch. Like, I don't do the Facebook time slow down, please stop growing. And I'm like, no, like I get the concept of I wish I could hold a baby and just rock for eight
Yeah.
hours, but what's it gonna be? And if it's
Yeah.
in the fertile soil of possibility and it's being treated and you're watering it and you're giving it the right food, you're talking to it, you're going, grow, baby, grow. You want to see the end of that.
Yeah. Right.
So it's
Right. Wow.
powerful.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Alice. I love hearing people's stories, and I love hearing that growth progression, and just kind of
Yeah.
hearing, some of the stories of how they grew, and your story is amazing. I love the fact that you were a driver, and then now you're the CEO. You have this thriving business. I think that's a great story. And I also think too, you've invested a lot of time and money
Oh,
and
yeah.
energy into your own
Yeah.
growth, in developing your mindset, your thinking. And I just think that those of you who are listening to this or watching this, you have to take Alice's example to be able to invest in yourself and really to grow yourself, challenge those beliefs that you think you have, and really be able to take the time, make the time to invest in yourself and your own growth. And so, Alice, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for sharing some time here with me and with our audience. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you think we should have that would be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been to 5 turning points, and the first one is still the treasure. So I say, take the leap, make the first step. And a funny little fact is when Paul started working with me and personally coaching me, I told him, I said, I love Turning Point. I can't, this would be my, I believe, second one. I was like, I really love Turning Point. I think it's so awesome. I can't wait to see you guys and just can't wait to hear, going through this. And I said, but it really needs flour. It really needs
It needs flowers. Yeah.
flour. And so, I'm just like, just go to flowergeneral.com. But he was just so wonderful about, you know what? Yeah, I think you're right, because it adds so much. And he came back later after we went through that turning point, and he said, you know what? He said, I've done this. Oh my gosh, at that time, 38, I believe, times.
Mhm.
And he said, this one was the first one that it empowered him so much more. And I know it was because those flowers were in the room,
Flowers.
because
Sure.
A,
Sure.
they're a conversation piece, B, they're living, C, you have to take care of that.
Right.
That's something, like even during pandemic, sending out plants or something, just send something to move that normal, whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
attention with your
Yeah.
own hurts, habits, and hangups,
Yep.
to break it.
Hmm.
And if you can do that for just one, just leave that crack there. There'll be
Yeah.
a flower pop up through it. I promise.
Love it. I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for that
Thank you
last little
so
bit. Yeah.
much.
So, and you mentioned it just in passing, but tell people how they can get some flowers and get some plants, and how do
Oh
they get
yeah.
how do they get your services?
Oh, I'd love to. We have flowergeneral.com
Okay.
or carlsteds.com. That's
Okay.
CarlSteedts.
Got it.
Hence, this is why we have Flower General. But carlsteds.com, flowergeneral.com is a place you can go. We have gifts there. We have flowers that you can send someone flowers for $39.95. It ships in 2 days. It's a
Love it.
beautiful bouquet. And we're all the time making new recipes for that. But
Oh, it's
yeah, I
awesome.
appreciate that. Like, we're sending
Yes.
energy all over the world. We
That's
have a concierge, a floral concierge. So
okay.
let's say you have a friend who, whatever, is having a baby shower, or you just want to say, hey, thanks for spending time with me today.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't revolve around sympathy.
Right.
We handle sympathy and we
Yeah.
deal with that.
Mm.
But I just want to say thank you for
Yeah.
having lunch with me today, for, listening to my heart or whatever.
Yeah.
And we can send those out through a floral concierge. Basically, you just click the floral concierge and we just ask you a few questions.
Very
Do you want to
nice.
send it to your kid because they, made the straight A
Yeah.
thing or
Yeah.
whatever?
I love it. I
And we
love
can
it.
send them out. So
I love it. I've
it's
never heard of
fun.
that, about floral concierge. We're gonna have to check that out. I love it.
Yeah.
So we'll put those websites in the show notes. So we'll make sure everybody's got a chance to be able to go check those out. And
Thank
if
you.
people are coming to Turning Point, they will also see some of your flowers there. So
that is fantastic. I want to go so bad. I'm trying to do my schedule, but
that's great.
I love it. And I love what it means and I love what it stands for. And I really think that we need those big nuggets in our life to give us more power, more just invigorating control of our life. I mean, just to be able to say, we're the co-pilot,
Right.
You've just been like, I don't know. And we're like, no, you do. You're
do
reminded
know.
that you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's built in by God.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for
Thank
taking
you.
time, Alice. I really appreciate it. And great to have you here on In the Growth Space.
Oh, it was so fun to be here. Thank you. Thanks again.
My
Bye,
pleasure.
everybody.
Well, I just love hearing stories like Alice's, and just the thought of her starting out as a driver and then going to being in sales and then being in management, and then the growth of actually buying the company from her boss. What a great growth story. I got such many takeaways and some key points that I just wanted to bring out, the things that I saw in this story. And one of the key things I thought to Alice's story was her secret sauce to growth, and that was being a possibility thinker. So oftentimes I think we often see what is wrong or what isn't possible. But by being a possibility thinker, we can actually open our mind up to other options and possibilities that maybe we're overlooking. The other thing that I thought was really important in her story too is just being a lifelong learner and not allowing your own limitations to hold you back, or the stories that you're telling yourself from holding you back. And then as a leader, going first and actually putting yourself into your own growth path, getting a coach, being in a mastermind group, and just being able to invest in your own self. That is such a great key to really any leader. The other thing that I heard in Alice's story was the fact that she allowed her people to be exposed to growth opportunities, and she's given her people opportunities to come to the Turning Point retreat. And one of the things that I thought of is just, and I'd invite you to consider the fact that you could put your leaders into a mastermind group or an inner circle group like we have here at Impact Leadership, and that will help foster their growth because they're going to be around other leaders who are facing similar challenges, and they're going to gain insights from the power of a mastermind environment. Another takeaway from this conversation too, I thought, was that Alice is really intentional about leading time and working with time. And it's always great to hear leaders' approaches to leading in their calendar. I loved her concept of actually putting reminders and parameters around her calendar through using her phone. I do some of the similar types of things, but I really also thought that her view of Turning Point and her experience of Turning Point and being able to walk through the exercises that we go through in Turning Point, of just recognizing what resentment we might have within us, and then any resistance that we're facing, and the revenge that we may have in our lives is such a powerful tool. That particular exercise on the last day is really, really powerful. But more than anything, having time and space to consider who you want to be and really learning the process of thinking. So many leaders are not skilled at just just taking time to think and actually giving them space to think. So Turning Point does that. And then also learning how to just imagine the future and live in the future. Because you're doing that, it may scare some people. And actually, the other takeaway I thought was cool is just she did things that scared her. She's really good at going out and doing things that scare her. And by going through Turning Point, she learned to uncover the things that helped her grow. And I know that you can do the same thing too. You can uncover opportunities for your own growth at Turning Point. So I just want to encourage you to check out the registration page for Turning Point, www.davidmcglennen.com/Turning Point. And the capital T and capital P have to be in there, I guess, to get to the proper page. So davidmcglennen.com/Turning Point with a capital T and a capital P. But I just want to encourage you to really consider coming to Turning Point, because I know how impactful it has been for my own journey, my own growth journey. And I want to encourage that for you as well. And that's what In the Growth Space is all about. I also want to encourage you to go out and check out Alice's website, flowergeneral.com and carlstedts.com. We'll have those links in the show notes, especially using her floral concierge. So if you come to Turning Point, you're going to see some of the great flowers and plants that Alice's team puts together for us, because we are going to have them there. I really believe that energy in the room is so helpful as well. So go out and check out Flower General, and do connect with Alice. I know she's on Facebook. I think she's also on Instagram, but just a great leader. So I want to thank you once again for listening to In the Growth Space and really sharing this time with me. I hope it's been beneficial to you. And until next time, stay in that growth space and be well.